Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. As part of our customer success initiative, today is the 8th in a series of webinars that we aim to deliver on a monthly basis between product training, product updates, and tips and tricks to help maximize your use of the platform. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation or have some feedback, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll answer as many as we can at the end. If we can't get to all the questions, we'll answer them separately by email after the webinar. All are welcome. My name is Chris Dunphy. I'm a Customer Success Manager here in Apex. I've been with the company for the last 6 years, and I previously worked in the customer support team, and now work in our Customer Success department. For those who have joined in our last few sessions, we've demoed our new management interface and visual page builder tools. We've also delivered a practical set of CMS training that was aimed at tips and tricks to help get the most out of blocks, our visual page builder tool, as well as multiple other items that we've run through for both Sales Rep, Web Shop, and Pocket Shop. Last month's session was centered around product options, filters, and SEO best practices around best practices around controlling your product options and filters. There's more to check out on that video as it's up in our documentation hub, Apex Assist. Today's session is to cover a range of items that our customers have repeatedly looked for some assistance with regarding the web shop management of content, from product translations to order confirmation configuration. In this session today, we'll be covering translations, what are they and how you can use them to get the most out of your web shop, document and spec sheet attachment, product specifications, from prices and product options, can buy products or can't buy products rather, and order confirmation configuration. The benefits or takeaways for today's session will allow you to control what customers see on language control if you do support more than one language and not be reliant on the likes of Google Translate. Adding documents en masse to product pages, adding specifications or tabular data to products en masse, manage from prices for product options, manage the control of products you wish to display but not sell broadly to the public and why, and understand why, that's important, and to partially control what gets displayed on order confirmations. We'll be using a couple of web shop demonstration tools from 2 sites so we can demonstrate how these practical scenarios work. Most of these features are broadly enabled by default. If they are not, please do contact our support team to allow us to either enable them or assist with configuration for them and show you how best that they can get used. So without further ado, I'm just going to pause my slide and swap my screen over to the practical demonstration. Thank you. Sorry, just one moment. So on product translations, so as you can see here, this is one of our demo sites. This particular one here is not configured for showing content in multiple languages. We can see that because all we have is a currency toggle here. But if we go to another site, we can see here, apart from the currency switcher, we also have a language changer. Now, this could be used for a wide variety of aspects. So if we take a look at, say, for example, in English, if I switch to German, so straight away, like my browser, when I use if I have an add-on for Google Translate, it's looking to change things into different languages. That's okay ultimately, if somebody, an end user, wants to use Google Translate, that's absolutely fine. But from time to time, Google Translate doesn't necessarily change over the English text to the appropriate language, maybe exactly as you would like it, maybe. There can be some things that kind of get missed in the translations. So we'll just ignore this pop-up here. This is going to pop up periodically from time to time, regardless, depending on what domain you're on either. So it looks at your locale and will try to change the language best suited to where your locale actually is. We can see here, though, that the shop button has changed. Now, that is because of something that you can configure in the back end of the web shop that we'll show now in a moment. But also you can see that the main kind of buttons have changed here. Whereas before, if we change back, we can see this was set to like store locator, my account, my cart, store locator, payments, promos, things like that. The same would be if I was in the cart. I suppose I don't have anything in the cart just yet. Let me just add something in quickly. Now if I change this to, again, German, we can see that those translations show up there. Now those translations by and large are on by default. So predominantly by standard, you get a list of language translations out of the box for web shop. So you can show, so most of these kind of buttons will display in multiple languages, should you wish to show them in this sort of configuration. This sort of configuration, by generally, it's not on by default, so you'd have to contact support to let us know which languages you want to show. But these can get tied into product content, product categories, and CMS pages as well. So quickly, let's take a look. So if you wanted to change, say, the likes of just a button, and it doesn't necessarily mean that where you might want the language equivalent of it to change. Maybe you just want the actual text, to say for English, just to be something else. A good example of this might be, for example, if, say, on the English equivalent, maybe clear cart is pretty standard, but maybe you wanted to say empty cart. Again, this is completely down to the individual merchant, but this is just an example of one thing that you might want to change. So let's say, for example, if I go into our management interface, I'd scroll on down to localization, translations, and you can search. You could do a Control and F to just search the page, or you could search for the appropriate translation here. So I'm on the back end of the, I'm on the back end of the English context, not the German or the Spanish or the Dutch. So I'm going to look up clear cart. Now, this will show different types of translations tags depending on what Apex product you use. So you can change these sort of things for our wardrobe management feature, sales rep if you use the sales rep app, Pocket Shop, our mobile app, where the word clear is in the where the word clear is contained in that sort of translation. But all I'm really looking at here, the most appropriate one, as you can see, is clear cart. So if I click on the edit button, You can see here by default I have Dutch, French, Finnish, Spanish, English. You can add any translatable language that you want. It doesn't necessarily mean that that will create a new button here on the front end of the web shop. If you wanted to, again, have that visual aspect of it, you'd have to come through our support team, and then we'd tell you how that may be enabled or brought forward onto the web shop. And then there's a whole host of other things that might need to be done on yours on the merchant side, such as, you know, does it display on a particular domain or subdomain for that language? Shop.com or shop.de or de.shop, those sort of things. So we'd have to take those sort of things into account and into consideration. But to get the baseline level of those translations, you can set them here. But on the English side, let's say I just, as I said, wanted to say empty cart. Hit save. If it should apply straight away, but if it doesn't, you may have to clear your cache. As you can see, empty cart has now changed. If I wanted to make that German change, it's the exact same scenario. I can see here, there's the German translation. There I go. So I'm not going to change this too much. I'll just add in a little dot at the end of it just so we can see that my change has actually taken place. And there I go. And as I said, all the while, Google Translate will try to change that. Feel free to do that if you wish. And that is completely down to you. And you see here, delete shopping cart. That's not what we're saying. It was clear cart, empty cart, and now it's taken that language. Now it's looking to give it an approximate translation. It is there and thereabouts, but it's not exactly on the money. In terms of translations for like content, I suppose that's a different thing. These are preset buttons that are broad and standard across the web shop. But for the likes of content specific things, that's a little bit different. So you may notice that, again, if I go onto the web shop here, go back to English, and I'll go into, what did I go into? I went to computing and our gaming. So when I'm looking up the likes of this here, if I change the language again, now what the product translations, you get out of it what you put into it. So if I change this to German, now we can see here, nothing has changed in terms of the content. It's still the same names, it's still the same categories. And the reason is because, unless of course you use Google Translate, but the reason is in the back end of the site, we haven't created a German equivalent to this. So let's just take a look in the back end and we can see this for ourselves. So if I click on catalog, and go onto the front end so I can see something that has changed. So we'll just get a quick translation of this going for the German side of things. I'm going to cheat here and use Google Translate for this. We have some customers who have in-house translations, in-house translators rather, that do this sort of thing. So this sort of stuff can be applied through the back end by a spreadsheet import, as you would a standard product import, or one at a time. And there's my German translation. So that's doing it from a product perspective. And the same would be if I did it from categories. You can import a category and content translation specific to the domain that you're on. Again, the context would be based off of what language you're trying to do this to. So at the moment, I'm on the German side of it. If I did this to the Spanish, you can do it again to Dutch, you can do it again to any specific language. So you start to import different content per different language. Again, using the kind of standard category import tool that you would use for normal imports. So yeah, this would be good for merchants who have, you know, a web shop where they are located in where they sell it within different languages, or whether it's you own your domain or subdomain, and we can map those subdomains or domains to the appropriate language. But again, contact our support team for more information on that. Next up is spreadsheet or document attachment. So what we found is that over the years, while you can easily attach a document to a singular product. I'll very briefly run through the older way of doing this. So what you would have had to have done is navigate down to the file library. Just do it on this one here. What you would have had to have done is navigate down to the file library. And then you'd create a folder called, I think it was products, and then within that folder, call it downloads, create a folder manually. And then in that folder would be named by a product code, and then any documents that you would want attached to that only product, you'd have to drop into that folder. It's fine, but it's a bit tedious and it's a bit long-winded. But what we found is that a lot of our customers were wanting to attach maybe the same document across multiple products. And then, you know, if you have a catalog of, you know, a couple of thousand products or 50, 60,000 products, then it starts to get very arduous and a very time-consuming task. So we developed a feature called shared documents. So in this case here, if I wanted to attach a document, I'm just going to show one that's set up already, and then we'll set one up manually. So we can see a button here called downloads. Again, that's a translation. If you want to change that to something else, go back into the translation section, search up downloads, and change that to be whatever you want. It might be best to name it something else. So what we've done here is we've attached a document for safety of on the use of VR headsets, because VR headsets are great, but you know, I suppose there's a safety element to use them, because you can't see where you are and you have to be careful about how you're using them. So for this demo, what we can see is on this example, we've created a group called safety document, and we have the safety document attached to it. But maybe also you could want like a technical specifications document, or whatever other sort of document that you want it to be attached to, but you could have it inside like a group underneath. the main downloads button. So how we're going to apply the same sort of scenario to a sister product. We go back here into the VR accessories. That was on 1500F. Let's do it on 1500E. So the first thing you would do is navigate to catalog. Oh, sorry, and just a prerequisite to this. The only thing you need to do to make this work is A, make sure the feature is enabled. If it's not, contact support. And have this root folder here called extra docs. Just that's the only thing. Just make sure you have extra docs there. It has to be there in that format, capital E, capital D, and then any containing document will be placed in there. This VR headsets will make sense in a moment, but not right now. So let's go back into catalog and into import and export. So on the import and export page, there's a button here at the bottom called shared documents. Import product documents is the button. There is an overview here, but essentially what it's telling you is when you export out the format of the document, this is what we're left with here. This is the one I've set up earlier on. So we can see this has everything on the web shop that has a document attached. So it's like a master file. It's handy to know. In this case here, all I'm going to do is change. Now I could import this spreadsheet with the new details. In this case, I'm just going, because it's such a minor change, I'm just going to change it to 1500E because that is the product code of the product that I'm looking to attach this to. And another reason is if I did have 1500F and 1500E, because I have the same I already have documents attached to one of these products and nothing attached to the new product I'm attempting to add, I would have to make sure that I remove matching product document links. Yeah, so if you remove the matching product document links, if there's any duplicates, and if you re-import them again, then it can create duplicates. So the best thing to do is if you're just adding in a new document and you're not trying to add something to an already existing product, you're best off to just have it on the spreadsheet with just what you're attempting to update or add on. So in this case here, the folder, this is saying it's pointing to VR headsets, which exists. We know that exists because it's here in the files library. So you need to preemptively put VR headsets in extra docs. So this spreadsheet is going to point this column, to this folder. The title that displays in the web shop is what will be, it's the document or documents that are nested under that title. In this case here, I'm just going to leave it a safety document. And we can see here on 1500E, there's nothing there to begin with. Oh, sorry, was that 1500F? Or maybe I added it already. Okay, we'll do another product code. Let's do 1500 XDC 196. So save that document. Then we'll choose the file. Now, let's go back onto our page. I just have to clear our cache. There we go. So we have the safety document, and then we have the document itself. Again, if I open it up here, it just opens up, just a simple PDF. But it could be for anything. It could be for absolutely anything. So I suppose the benefit of that would be, again, if you have that kind of spreadsheet scenario, if you have multiple codes in the same or multiple folders, and then the same or multiple doc group titles, you're pointing the document that is stored here. It just so happens to be that there is one document in that folder. So any documents that are stored in here, they will display. So the beauty about this now is as well, if you already have that set up and if you want to just add more documents to that folder, just add them in there, and then those documents will start to display on the web shop without any additional spreadsheet import management. Okay, next we'll be looking at specifications. So I'll show you one that we set up already, and then we'll take one. We'll set up one from the get-go from scratch. So I suppose if we take a look at, specifications in general, we've a number of customers who do this in a lot of different ways, or they've started off on a route where maybe they start to do it over a period of time and then realize, wow, I'm spending an awful lot of time on this. How can I make this easier? So I guess from somebody who already has experience with e-commerce and maybe from a previous e-commerce setup, they already have maybe a set of specification tables for, the food industry, electronics industry, safety equipment, all of those sort of things. They, generally need to display this sort of stuff. It's not like, clothing where, a brief description of the product might be good enough. Something might legally be required to show this sort of information. So in the case of, say, again, we'll use this as an example. We can see here on the product description here, there's a load of information here on this headset. And that's fine, but it's probably more better suited to have a blurb on the product, maybe a video on the product. But this is a lot. Like, I don't know about you, but this is, I can't read this sort of thing in this sort of manner. I'd rather see something in a specifications table. I think it would be far easier, whether it's in a downloadable document or preferably maybe managed through a spreadsheet. In this case here, I've just put some basic specs. I haven't put everything here, but in terms of technical specifications, we can very clearly see what's the screen size, what's the resolution, what's the refresh rate, and what are the connections to the product. So if we go into, say, another product, let's look at, let's look at the same again. We'll go for the Oculus Go. So we don't need to take this exactly as it is. We'll use the specifications that we've already set up in the other product. But essentially, once technical specifications is enabled, you can create specifications manually, first of all. So you have to group them. So we go catalog, product specifications, and this is a lot here. There is quite a lot here in terms of like these root level groups. It doesn't always have to be like this. We have product specifications and we have specifications. Just be careful how you set these things up, because this is an example of maybe someone who starts off calling something product specifications, but then somebody else changes it to specifications. And then before you know it, there's two areas to work from where really maybe everything here should be just nested under the one. and the same could be for general, but again, it's how you want to organize it. The main thing I would suggest is pay close attention that everything is named correctly. That when you name the convention of something, that it's, if you start off with an uppercase P or an uppercase S, you keep with that. Keep to everything the exact way it should be, because if you start to create these things via a spreadsheet, which we'll demonstrate there now in a moment, um, if you set up something with a spreadsheet of product specification and then product specifications, then that will start to create two different groups. And visually to the customer, it probably won't make a difference, but from you, from the management in the back end, it will get a bit frustrating. So let's, for example, let's export out all this. Actually, we don't even need to export out all the specifications. We can broadly, if you wanted to look at every single product specification that's on the web shop, that's them there. And you can see how it's nested, where we have that specifications group title, what gets displayed on the web shop in terms of the specification name, and then the value that you add in manually. Then we'll go through these in a bit more detail, but you always have access to that master spreadsheet, so you don't ever have to lose anything. So they're all there. If we are adding something in by the other example that we just mentioned a moment ago, let's take a product that has one already, and then we'll export it out and then manipulate it. So let's go back to this product here, the 1500F. We'll edit the product, go into product settings, download the specifications for that product. Let's change it around. So you can see here, product specifications is coming from product specifications. Screen size, resolution, connections, and refresh rate. They're all here. Now, if I import this spreadsheet now, once it matches one of these specifications that exist, it will use them and won't create new ones. If I did change these in any way, shape, or form, or add in a new one, it would create that new specification. So let's use that as an example. So we're going to create a specification name called brand, or let's just see if there's one that exists already. No, doesn't. Oculus. So we're going to take that product code that we seen a moment ago, XDC196. And we're going to save it. Now we're going to import it. The clear product specifications, it doesn't really matter if I set this to yes or no now, because again, the only thing in that spreadsheet was this product. If I was keeping the previous content and adding the new content, I would say yes. And the reason is it clears out what was there for that former product, and it just adds on what's there for the new for both of these products now. If I said no, then it would have duplicated the content on the product. So I'm going to hit submit, and it's done. And we can see here under product specifications now, we have brand, first of all. It's set to be a type of text. Now this is just a brief digression. If you click action, you can change the type. So text is the most common thing. It just means that anything that you enter in the spreadsheet here in the value column is just, it is what it is. But if you are entering in something numerical, like maybe you're pasting in, I don't know, values from a document. Maybe it's like 1 point, like we're talking very maybe large or small dimensions, maybe 1.11115, rather than you having to manually change that down to 1.1 or 1.10, whatever that might be. If you had the type, you can round it up. You can say that it will round up to a whole number or round it to 2 decimal places. So, but primarily, probably just best to leave it as text. And then the sort order you can set. It's probably not overly important, but if you wanted some of the specifications to be at the very top of a group, if you have the sort order as like the lowest number, so if everything was at 0, but you have one specification at -1 or -2 or whatever that might be, then that specification will be at like the top of the specifications list on the product page. So we've added that to the product. Again, this is translatable. So technical specifications, you can change that to anything you want in the management interface under the translation section. Change that to whatever you want on a per language basis, and that will be amended. And we can see here, brand sits at the top purely because I've set it to -5, and everything else displays here in a tabular format. So it's good if you had a lot of products very similar and you just want to broadly add content to them. Maybe product description is of absolutely no use whatsoever. If that's the case, that's absolutely fine. Can't buy products is next. So this came up a number of times because we've had merchants who have seasonal products, and what they were doing was they were, well, first of all, just to give you a small bit of a background, a customer may or may not have their catalog automated from their ERP, as in we have the ability to order a web shop catalog so that products can appear or disappear based off of a flag from the ERP, which is great. Or they can be used, or products can be manually added through the process of adding them one at a time or by spreadsheet management. What occur if you have a product that is really, really good in terms of ranking on SEO, and you get a lot of hits and you can see there's a lot of traffic to that product, but then all of a sudden maybe you don't have that product anymore, or that it's seasonal, or it's on back, or you just don't want the hassle of the back order aspect of it. This behavior can change depending on if you're a retailer or a wholesaler. For example, wholesalers may want products to just, even if they're out of stock, to be just able to be ordered regardless, and then they get them in to stock whenever they're into stock. But for a retailer, the retail kind of consumer is a little bit more, I want it now, I don't want to wait, and if they order it and if it's not in stock, then it can give a lot of trouble to the merchant in terms of managing that relationship. So what has happened is we found that some merchants were just turning their products invisible or turning the flag off in their ERP to remove it from the web shop. This might seem like a good idea, but in actual fact, what's happening is Google still see, especially if you're, a customer who, isn't behind like a gated login. If Google is picking up that product and that product is being indexed, and if that product is getting a lot of hits or traffic from search engines, a customer will click a link and they'll get brought to a 404 page. So it's a broken link. Google sees that, and then you go down the rankings, and that's very poor for your SEO. So we developed a feature called Can't Buy. This doesn't seem to be on always by default. So if you email into our support team or contact us through our support desk, we can get this turned on for you. And this can be done. This can be used on a per product basis, or it can be used, using spreadsheet management. So if I take something like, again, go with the HTC. If I was to export out this product, I can see one of the options is can buy. If I set this product by default, if this is on, a product would be set to can buy. Let's just say it's can buy no. We'll just open up that product so we can see it. So there it is there. We can add it to the cart. And now I'm going to say, can you buy it? I cannot. Now by default, it doesn't display a message. I think we've set this one to be price on application. That is a translation. You can display that product. You can display whatever you want. That's a translation that you can set in the management interface under translations. Maybe something perhaps like product unavailable, contact us, and then leave some contact information or contact the office or whatever the case might be. There are caveats to this as well. So if you wanted, this would be something that you'd have to go through our support team, but there are options that if something is can buy no, you could maybe you could use it for, you could still add it to the order as a quote, as a quotation. So if a product is can buy, then you can still add it to a quote. So you can essentially send an order through to somebody, to the ERP system, and you'll receive a quotation. Sorry, you'll receive an order in the ERP, but depending on the status of the how your quotes are set up via web shop, it'll hit your ERP as a quotation, and then from there you can action it out, whether it's something that you can come back to the customer, sell it to them, or whatever the case might be. Yeah, and then there's options where you can still show the price of the product or not. Those sort of things are configurable by the support team. But if you come to us and ask us and tell us what you'd like, we can absolutely work with you on making sure that's available for your web shop. But yes, the main thing on that would be it's mainly good from an SEO perspective. Let me just check one thing here. What we're going to show now is looking at from pricing an option. So I had an example product of this setup earlier on, and I'm actually just looking for it now. I think it's come offline from our ERP integration. One moment, and let me have a quick look. But essentially, it means where if I have a product with options, and I want on the listing page to show what price it's from, you know, presumably again, if it's like electronics or clothing or whatever the case might be, there'll be different prices for different products, and we want to show like a from price on this page here. So let's just have a quick look to see if we can find an option product. There we go. So let's just change that language. There we go. So we can see here that this is a product with options. Now it works on one sort of caveat. So the parent product must be an actual product. So by default, it will show a product price. To show additional text of, you know, from or something like that, contact our support team, and depending on what the styling is that you want to show, it doesn't do it out of the box because everyone wants something a little bit different, from lowest price, etc., etc. So those sort of things can change from time to time. But if you contact our support team, they can assist with getting that operational. But if I click into the product, so we can see the product, the first product that we have here is KG01, that's the parent. So KG01 is the parent. It's not necessarily the lowest price product, but KG01 is the parent. So what you would have to do is have KG01 as, sorry, have the lowest price product runner. So we have this 8 gig variation of it. Obviously, you know, in the real world, the 8 gig one will probably be more expensive, but the product code in the back end of the web shop, if we click on edit options, KGIO KG01-2, this one here being that it's the lowest priced option, that would actually have to be set as the parent product. Once that's set as the parent product, then when you're on that listing page, that will show that product price being like, that's the from price. And it's only a small little thing, but it can help when, you know, if you have a lot of options and if they have different prices, because by default, if it's not on, it doesn't show, sorry, if it's not on by default, it doesn't show that price on the listing page. So it just shows view options, which is okay, and it is the standard. But if you do want to show that from price, it's nice to just have something in there. And lastly, what we're going to cover here is order confirmations. So there are a number of things just to run through on order confirmations. So the template for order confirmations is pretty standard, where in as far as that it has like a company logo, you know, the products, the prices, if it has discounts, but there are different things that you can have configured additional to what's there as the standard. So if we jump into the back end here, into settings, there are a few things that you on your side can actually change yourself. And there are some things that we would have to enable for you. For example, one of those things would be if you want to just remove the footer completely from the order confirmation confirmation that gets sent, you can do that by clicking into the email section under features. Sorry. The email section under features, and there's an option to print the cart. You can have something set up whereby you can use the customer's name and code in the subject line for the order confirmation. That's good for B2B customers especially. You can blind copy yourself on all orders if you want to put an email address in here. That's something that nobody really seems to use, but it could be handy if you want to see all orders as they get sent. There's the option to set it so that when an order confirmation gets exported, gets completed from the management interface, you can export that order to a spreadsheet. So if I click now into orders, you can download it as a CSV. So you can have actually that order will display in terms of a spreadsheet. There's other additions whereby you can move the customer's references around. You can add VAT numbers in. You can add in additional content to the footer of the order confirmation by creating CMS pages. We're going to run through some of these now. And one really good thing is that you can also show product images on the order confirmation. Some of these things are not there right there at the moment in the settings page, where our developers and our product team are working really, really well to enable more of these toggles and these features so that you can kind of self-service. But for the moment, some of these you may have to come into our support team. What I'm going to do is enable some of these so you can kind of see what I'm referring to. So in the case of, let's say, looking at the orders where you can see that's there. So here's just like the Nintendo Switch power banks. Now, if I go into our settings page, this is something that you won't be able to see from your side. I'm just going to quickly enable something for you. And I'm going to add in a VAT number and show an account code. I'm going to refresh this page. And now we have our product images. If there's an image, of course, you have to make sure that there is an image attached to the product. But we can see in the order confirmation, now we have the image of that product on the order confirmation that gets sent to the customer. Additional to that, what I've also done is, again, the order confirmation it's not an invoice, but we do understand that some customers they're kind of trade, but they're still ordering off you as a retail customer. They may want to use it as a near enough for their invoice. You know, and some accountants, not that they should, but some accountants can, once there's a VAT number being displayed on a document, they can use that nearly as an invoiceable piece of documentation. So you can add in your VAT details there, and then that could be maybe used by your customers' accounts for that purpose. Bear in mind, if a B2B customer can gain access to live ERP invoices, whereas B2C customers, they see order history, but they don't get an actual invoice per se. What we've also done was we've enabled to show the account code. Again, that could be good for B2B customers. It's not really necessary for the likes of B2C customers. It can be handy. And then something that's come up once or twice as well is on the billing address and delivery address. So in some cases where we have a customer contact on the order confirmation where they are actually adding in their name on the order, that doesn't always get displayed on the order confirmation. So that can be augmented and changed. So if I go into, let's say, for example, go to I'm gonna do a couple of things. I'm gonna replace the customer name with the company name, and I'm gonna replace the customer name with the company name for the billing address only. It's probably not really made much of a difference. It's mostly the same. We'll do a test order and we can see what I mean by this. No, my name is, the contact name is down as Chris Dunphy. Just try a smaller order. Now, and that gives me that, as well as being able to, that feature earlier on that shows the export order confirmation to spreadsheet, that's there as well. So now if I go back into orders, so the delivery details, I'm still showing my name, but in the billing address, it's showing the company name. Now, if I change that again, so maybe I don't want to show customer name at all. And if I want to move the customer reference and phone to the top of the page, and let's take a look at that again. One moment, it's probably just cached. There we go. So now it's removed my name altogether and it just has the company name. Also, the customer reference has been passed alongside here by the web order number. So, you know, it's basically it's a PO number. So you have this number reference, but then you also have the PO number that you added in the checkout. So that can be changed as well. I know we're going slightly over, but just the last thing I want to finish on here is the footer. So, you know, if you want something that's like, I think this is actually pointing to a CMS page at the moment, but let's show something that's like, you know, maybe something that's very custom. So if I take something like, maybe for example, if you want to have all of the information that would be in your terms and conditions on every single order confirmation, probably seems a little bit much. Could even just have a link to it or something. But let's, for example, say you wanted to have something in there. If I go into settings, CMS, customize, and under order, you have order confirmation. So this is pointing to a page called order confirmation footer because we have created a page called order confirmation footer. Under pages, let's have a look. There we go. So when we open up order confirmation footer, the template is just left as a general template. I think it only works with that particular format. So under the content, it's set to my very own footer with extra terms and conditions. Let's just pop in that. Hit save. And then under orders, as far as I know, this displays on historic orders as well. Yeah, that's massive. But it just means that if there was, for example, something where somebody's maybe doing a collection order or that somebody's ordering via EFT, you can put your disclaimers in here to say, please allow 72 hours for payments to process via EFT, or if it's a collection order, please wait 24 hours, or please wait for us to contact you. Whatever the thing, whatever that might be, that can be added in here, and you can fully customize that how you want it to be. Hopefully that all makes sense and it was helpful. Just one moment and we will start taking some questions. Great. Now, if you can add your questions into the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll have a look at that now. Now, let's see if we can get some of these questions. One moment. Sorry, the wee little dialog box can take a little bit of time to open up. No, sorry. Here we have two. Here's from Craig, and he's wondering, how do you add the account code to the order confirmation? Yeah, well, I suppose if I think that I'm not sure if that was one that you could do yourself. If you email us into support@afixsoftware.com, or log into the AFIX support desk, just ask the guys in support and they'd be happy to do that for you. It only takes a moment. It doesn't. It's broad. So if it's like, if you do B2B, it will show the account code on the order confirmation. If you do B2B and B2C, it will show the cash account code if it's B2C, or the account code if it's B2B. I suppose from a retail customer, they're not really going to it's not going to be a big difference to them, but it could be helpful to those B2B customers perhaps. Another one from Craig, how do you turn on product specifications in the MI? If it's not there already, again, just email into support. It's a standard feature. Maybe it just wasn't covered in your implementation plan. But it's fine. Just email into us. We'll enable that for you. There's full documentation on the assist.afix.software hub. Also click the little help and support button in the management interface, and that'll bring you to that. Just search up specifications and you'll have the full guide, or rewatch this video again to show you how that works. Hopefully that helps. Here's one from Valerie. Let me see. What is the process of adding individual product documents to what is the process of adding individual product documents to multiple different products? Well, it's kind of just what I went through there, Valerie. So if you had it's done by way of the spreadsheet. So I suppose in comparison from the old to the new way, and maybe you are still using the old method, and if that is the case, contact support and we'll remove the older method and put in place the way of doing it on the new method for you. That's probably I think I know who you are. So I'm pretty sure you may have the older way of doing this. So if that's the case, and if you have that structure of, I think it's products downloads or downloads products, and you're putting the files in the respective folder, then that's the older way of doing this, and then you'd have to move to the new way. But essentially what you're really doing is you're creating a folder, extra docs, that's the one that has to be there. Within that folder, you're calling you're creating another folder and you're placing whatever document you want in there, document or documents. But then with the spreadsheet, I suppose what the spreadsheet is really doing is that's allowing you to point any product or products. So if you had like 100 products and you wanted the exact same document to be downloadable, you're saying in column A, you're having all of your product codes, and then in column B and C, you're pointing to the folder, and then you're pointing to what you want to display on the product page. But yeah, if you're currently limited to doing it at one at a time, touch base with support, and they'll be able to enable it. First of all, that's really all it is. It's enabling it, but you may have to undo some of the work. Like if you have this broadly across hundreds of documents now, in the older method when you used to do this one at a time, you're probably going to have to maybe undo some of that, and then redo it with the broad method. That's the only caveat. So whichever works best for you. Let me see. This one here is from Nuryan Barali. I'm not sure if this is specific to what we covered, but I can sure answer it. If we have different brands of products, can we hide a specific brand from certain customers? Absolutely, you can. The best way of achieving this would be to use product lists. I forget which exact month we covered this in. It's one of the last few webinars. I think it might have been maybe 2 webinars ago. But product lists is the best way of doing that. So you can create a product list or lists from a customer. You can do it in either way. You can either create a list for a specific customer that when they log in, all they see is a set of products or categories. So if you have products in those categories, you just allow those products or those categories to be viewable or tied to that customer or customers. You can have a list with more than one customer. Or you can try the inverse of that, where you have a restricted list where you're saying, I only want these products to be available for only these customers. So either way, you're kind of covered. And then here's the last one I see here. This is from Dara. Hi, Dara. The BCC email address for order confirmations, can you link it to just one account number? No, but there's a different way of doing that to kind of get the same results, Dara. So that's just a broad thing. So that would be, I'm the owner of the company, or I'm the warehouse manager, and I just want to keep tabs on things as they occur. Maybe, it's he or she sees those order confirmations flow in broadly. So again, you as the web shop admin, if you put your email address in there, you'd see every single order confirmation fly in, which would probably be a lot. But for a specific one, I suppose the best thing to do would be to just utilize the group account feature, the customer groups as it is, where you have, which I think you do anyway, whether it's a web shop order or I think a punch out order as well. When an order gets placed, when the account codes for your customers are in a customer group, and when an order gets placed for those customers or by those customers, and then there's a field in the customer group where you can say receives emails of orders, and then that contact or contacts that are added there, they specifically will just observe the order confirmations as they get placed. They don't have to have a web shop account, they don't have to have a web login, but they can see those order confirmations as they arise. This other one is just very broad, so that's maybe not for everyone. So yeah, I think that's it as far as I can see. Okay, guys. Yeah, thanks very much. Let me see. I think that's the last one there. Yep, so great. Yeah, so listen, thanks everyone. We appreciate you being here. The customer success team will be bringing a monthly We'll be bringing our monthly webinars going forward with some training refreshers, new product features, these webinars at least once a month for the foreseeable future. So stay tuned for more content. As mentioned, we'll be replying back to any other customer questions that may come in afterwards if we haven't answered them directly. And again, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.